Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into Take This, a brand new episode on Spotify, Twitter. What is this? What are we streaming, Griff? We're streaming on Twitter.
Well, we're streaming on Twitter, but this you can listen anywhere you Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts. So yes.
Yeah. So
you were half correct on both.
Half correct. I know. It's very interesting. Welcome to the new space, by the way, Griff. How do you like this is literally all I sleep, I live, and this is where I live, you know. It's a nice 8x8 space. So that is, that's what's going on. We got some stuff that obviously hasn't been put away yet. The Lansing Lugnuts cap in the corner, which is the local minor league baseball team. Yeah, their stadium is actually out that window. So very exciting stuff to partake in.
Absolutely.
Griff. So now all you know where I live. We have a new graphic on screen right here, which is pretty sick. We have both you and my little Twitter things, some new lower thirds, if that's what you're into, and then there's this. So brand new stuff going on here. And Griff, how was your week? How's it going?
You
got a new microphone, so we're just changing it up.
A lot of upgrades, man. Upgrades.
New Jersey.
New Jersey. Moritz Seider won the Calder. So obviously I had to go out and buy the jersey. Shout out Detroit Vintage. This is like the official authentic one. This isn't the cheap Fanatics one. This is the actual game authentic one. It's got the Adidas logo in the back. I'd show you.
So I don't understand why the NHL shop does not sell.
They do.
Why? They do, but it's wickedly expensive, isn't it?
They're about the same price as Detroit Vintage. I just trust Detroit Vintage more.
But, I mean the NHLshop.com. If I go to NHLshop.com, I can only get the as far as I thought, I could only get the Fanatics one.
Get the Adidas one. They're $250 as opposed to the Fanatics ones,
which is $170.
$170. So there is a price gap. I do think the price is worth the money. I'll probably buy more of the cheap ones to wear. I'm wearing this for the show. This is going in a jersey case.
Okay.
Because it's very nice.
And
I would, one day would like to get it signed and all that.
Right.
But
it's just weird to me because if I go on MLB's website to buy a baseball jersey, they all come Nike brand.
They're all Nike.
They're all Nike brand. Why does Adidas not do that? That would make the most sense to me because they're not making any money. So what's the point of having the license deal with the NHL?
Yeah, Adidas has it, and you can get any active player. You go to the custom jersey one, and it's select player or put custom in. So if you want to make an Yzerman jersey, you can.
Right. Mo Seider, his jersey is number 1 on Detroit Red Wings shop right now.
That's not surprising. He
just won the Calder.
Just won the Calder. Deservingly so. Don't get me wrong. Trevor Zegras, Michael Bunting, great years, but he won that
Zegras was actually
it was a blowout.
Zegras was the original guy, right? At the beginning of the year, he was the guy that was supposed to win the Calder.
He had the flashy goals.
But I would say that Zegras, and obviously he's obviously a stud, so this is in no way disrespect to him. But wouldn't you think that it's sort of a disappointing year for him not to win the Calder? He was kind of the favorite to win at the beginning.
People don't exactly envision a defenseman to be the one to win it most of the time, I feel because again, to win it as a defenseman, the defensemen don't have typically you can be oh, a defenseman Seider scored 50 points and led all rookies in assists, right? So the scoring numbers were there, but he's a defenseman. He doesn't score a lot of goals. His highlights are hits and some snipes and a lot of points from assists. But if you look at like Zegras, he had a lot of goals and he had a lot of flashy goals. He scored the Michigan, which the Michigan, obviously, it's a very, very impressive goal to pull off. But I think when the big thing with Seider was he didn't miss a game. He was playing over 20 minutes a night as a rookie, as a top line defenseman. And like, I'll even say something as crazy as this. He should have gotten Norris votes. Not like first, second, third or anything, but he should have gotten at least 1/5 place Norris vote. Because if you look at the Norris voting and you look at like the top 15 and you look at like the guys at the end who got like 1/5 place vote, I'm like, I'd rather have Seider over those guys. Even like if you look at this last year in a vacuum, like give me Seider over those guys all day, every day. I'm not saying he deserved to be like top 10, but he definitely
deserved to be there.
I think it's because it's like, oh, he's going to win the other one. We're not voting for him for this one. And it's like, okay.
Right. Well, and I don't know.
Hey,
I
Brad,
think.
Do you know something interesting
About
Mo Seider?
I would love
to know
something interesting.
Segue in, nicely into one of the main things we want to talk about today, which is do you know who Mo Seider's agent is?
No.
It's Claude Lemieux.
I think I did know that.
So yeah, Mo Seider's agent is the most hated man in Detroit. Although actually, I'll say this. I think Patrick Waugh is hated more than Claude Lemieux.
You think so?
Because Claude, the hit was bad and the shit talking after was bad. But I felt like Waugh was really public enemy number one for a while, especially because
he is the goalie.
Claude, he was, there was the famous Statue of Liberty goal who in 2002 that honestly kind of ended his career. I'm trying to remember because Claude was not on. Let's see, when did he go to the Avalanche? Or when did he leave the Avalanche? Yeah, he was, because you got to remember, Claude was traded back to New Jersey in 1999. So that era of the 3 years from 99 to 2002, the rivalry kept going without Lemieux being a part of it. Like Foote was still there, and obviously Waugh was still there, and it kept going. And the Avs went on to win another cup in 2001, and then the Wings won in 2002.
Well, and the Wings, and I get it about, and I know that we're gonna segue into the Unrivaled thing that came, and we're gonna talk about that a little bit. But the most interesting thing to me, I think, is that so like 2002 was like the first Stanley Cup run or championship run in general in sports that I was ever attached to, right? Like, I had a big Hasek fan. I had an Yzerman jersey at the time, but Hasek was really my favorite player. Yeah, when you're 7, you can't really decide which players' jerseys you get to buy. But I loved Hasek. He made me want to play goalie for my own hockey team, which I was terrible at and allowed like 6 goals in the first period of my first game. Terrible time. But just that run, like I still think that it as far as Detroit clutch performances go, I think that Hasek's performance in Game 6 of the 2002 Conference Finals against the Avalanche is one of the best that has ever happened. Like I don't think that there's many. I mean, it's Maglio Ordonez 2006 send to the World Series like on top, or things like that,
and that kind of leads into
or Darren McCarty's goal against the Flyers.
Oh, dude, that was 90. That was
97.
Yeah, because they swept the Flyers and they swept the Capitals.
Right, and But yeah, I think that like obviously the rivalry died down by then, but still it was
it was after that year because Waugh And forgive me because like I don't know all these dates off the top of my head. I was, let's see, 4 when the
Yeah.
rival in 2002.
Right.
So a lot of this is secondhand knowledge for me. Like that's kind of like the Unrivaled thing. Like I watched the Russian Five documentary, which also helped. I knew about the incident and the rivalry well before, but these documentaries definitely give it a cool new
Well, it
perspective
makes it
for me.
dramatic. Like I used to watch the 1997 Stanley Cup movie that the Red Wings had. It was like an hour long or something like that, and it was on VHS. And I remember watching it like all the time as a child, and so just yeah, I don't know,
And like
like that's how I
here's the
got
thing.
it.
I hate Patrick Waugh, but I also like respect him for being potentially uh one the greatest goalie in history.
I still think
If
it's
one
Hasek, but we're not gonna go there.
I mean, like listen, Brett, he's the only NHL player in history to win the Conn Smythe 3 times, only one to do so in 3 different decades, and the only one to do so with 2 different teams.
I
He's
might be partial, but it's
well, yeah.
still but I think that it's a big portion or a big reason why I think that Wah was so for so long people thought that he was like unanimously the best or the greatest goaltender of all time
Yeah.
is partly between two factors, and I think it boils down to he was on more successful teams at the time. Like the Avalanche had won so many, putting him in a better position to succeed, whereas Hasek was on the Buffalo Sabres, who, by the way, when Hasek was on that team that won that had who got into the Stanley Cup Finals against the Stars in 1999. The Sabres did not belong there. Like they had no place being in that series, and yet they had gotten to Game 6.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's between that, and I also think that the fact that there were no real like European goalie style of play was like not very popular at the time. Like the whole butterfly thing that Hasek did, I think was very exciting. So that also kind of leads into
Yeah,
maybe why some people would favor him over Wah, or whereas Wah was more of a stand up like traditional style of goaltender.
yep. And with Wah, like, so in 0203 was like his last season with the Avalanche. They got knocked out in the first round against the Minnesota Wild. Obviously in 01, 02, that was the year that was the year the Wings won it, I believe. Who won the best of 7 against the Hurricanes? Yeah. So he wins it in 01, the 2001 season, and then the 01-02 team, the Wings get the best of him, and that kind of ended his career, if for the most part. Like that was like that Statue of Liberty goal, the one where he saves it, it's in his glove, and he does the showboat with it, and he flies out of his glove and rolls into his own net, and like those were things that they kind of didn't cover in the
Yeah.
doc, in the Unrivaled doc. They kind of stopped after the Wings won the second cup in 98.
Right. Well, and I
Um,
think it's part of that too was
Other than
weird
like
for
they
me.
showed like the Osgood fight and that, but like those were in the regular season. They didn't show,
Well, they didn't
how
really
good.
even touch on the 98 season. I mean, they did, but they didn't. They did,
Well,
but
because
briefly.
the teams other than a couple fights, because
Right.
the one thing they did touch on was, I forget what it was, a regular season game, and Lemieux and McCarty are both sitting next to each other at the face-off, and they look at each other. And Lemieux you remember, he got his shit kicked in at fight night at the Joe.
Right.
He felt guilty because everyone was fighting for him in that, but meanwhile, he was off getting dragged to the locker room, and he wanted to throw down the fight with McCarty, to show like, hey, I'm going to stand up for myself. I don't need my teammates to do it. I don't need other people getting hurt for my cause. Now, granted, McCarty still beat the shit out of him, but it was at least a respect thing because
Yeah.
Lemieux was notorious for he would be an agitator, he would take cheap shots, and when someone actually tried to throw the gloves down, he would turtle and wouldn't want to fight. And in this case, he actually did, and it was kind of a point of like, I don't like the guy, I hate him, but I can at least respect what he did in that. But other than that, they didn't really touch on that season, and a big reason why is because Colorado got knocked out in the 90 in the
Yeah, they had. Well, I think it was the Oilers that did that, and
yeah.
and
So
also
they
thing.
never met in the playoffs, so they didn't really touch on it, and they wanted to talk more about Vlad Konstantinov,
Right.
understandably, because that. By the way, that was great. It really got the waterworks going.
You know
for me.
what's
I started
interesting
crying.
is
Just so
like
cool for him to be there still.
to me. You know what's interesting, and the Vladdy stuff was awesome. But you know what's interesting to me, I think more so than anything else, is that the documentary was so like pro Red Wings, you know? And I mean, I guess for obvious reasons. Like I feel like a Red Wings fan might have enjoyed that more than say an Avalanche fan.
Yeah.
Like would you agree, you know, because it was set up by McCarty.
The story is so heartbreaking when you think about it because it's
from a Red Wings perspective.
It can be heartbreaking if you're romantic about sports, which I think a lot of sports fans are. People are always make the joke, how can you not be romantic about baseball when all the cool shit happens in it, you know? And it's kind of the same thing with any sport. And a big thing that happened was you got to remember that 97 Cup was the first cup the Wings had won in 40 years, you know?
Well,
after
exactly.
the Dead Wing era and being an incompetent hockey organization, they finally win one. And literally 6 days after the fact, they're out having a good time on the golf course, playing golf, and they call a limo because they're drinking all day.
Right.
It's not like it wasn't like he did it to himself. They had a limousine driver, and the limousine driver happened to be a guy who didn't have his license, was under the influence, and really I have no idea how he was the one that ended up being their limousine driver, and it ends up being just a truly awful story, an awful situation. And then obviously the next year they come back, the storybook, they win the cup, they bring Vladdy out in the ice in Washington, which big shout out to Washington fans back then, because it sounded like they were in Detroit with how loud they cheered when they introduced Vladdy over the loudspeaker that he was there, and the place like erupted. Because, you know, if you're a hockey fan and you realize that happens, it's like it's bigger than sports. And, you know, Joe Sakic, who is the current Avalanche GM and was a player back in that era. Again, I kind of hate everyone from that era, right? Because the rivalry is the rivalry. But I respected him for saying it's the one time you could root for the Red Wings because it was just such a classy thing that they did, and how getting to let Vladdy have that moment. And like I said, it was a really well done documentary, especially if you did watch the extended version and you got to see more of the backstory about how the Red Wings were too soft. You know, they got bullied out of the finals in 96 and then, or in 95. And then in 96, obviously kind of the same thing with Colorado. And then they come back and they become, the whole fight night incident. Really good on the preemptive stuff in the extended version. I just do wish they had talked about the rivalry a little bit more into 2002, but I also kind of get it because you do have a time constraint, and I get you got Vlad to be a part of it. You gotta give him the time, and I get wanting to kind of end on him and him winning it in 98. So like I said, I would have liked something else a little bit more. I think the Russian 5 documentary is like the nice one that kind of wraps up after 98. I would have liked to seen this one talk all the way through the rivalry, but I also understand. I'm not like losing sleep over it. It was still very well done and very cool, especially if you're a younger Wings fan that either was barely able to remember it or really wasn't alive or old enough to remember the rivalry. Definitely a cool experience. But at this point, I'm done talking about past accomplishments for these teams, and I would very much like to get to the point where we can talk about these teams in the future being good. And we're getting there.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is, well, and obviously we brought this up before, but the Red Wings have never not won the Stanley Cup the year after the Avalanche have won. So we're not saying it's going to happen or anything, but it obviously it's looking good as far as if we set precedent. Griff, back to one more thing before we move on real quick. If you had one game, okay, you had one game, you get to pick your goaltender. Do you take Hasek or Wah?
Wah.
Okay,
well,
listen to this. I got stats for you. Okay, so in 735 games, Hasek has a goals against average of 2.2, a save percentage of 92%, 92.2, and 81 shutouts. This is regular season. In 1,029 games, Wah has a 2.54 goals against, 0.91 save percentage, and 66 shutouts. And in the playoffs, Hasek has 119 games. Wah has 247. Hasek has 2.02 goals against. Wah 2.3. 23 shutouts for Wah and 14 for Hasek. So that's about it. But every other stat, Wah is second place. And the only difference really is that Hasek doesn't have any Conn Smythes, which is obviously the Stanley Cup MVP. But Hasek does have double the Vezina trophies. So all I'm saying is
that's fair.
I would take Hasek all day long. However, there are arguments on the flip side where Hasek played in an era that was much later than Wah did. Like Wah played for, I think they were a half generation behind each other, right? Or something like that, where there was, people call it the dead puck era for Wah. So scoring was way up during Wah's career, or for the first few years of it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. But as far as style of goaltending, I would still take take Hasek, just for the record, in case anyone wanted to put that down.
That's fair.
Sick helmet, Brad, too. Sick helmet.
True. You want to know, just real quick before we kind of talk about the Stanley Cup final, you want to know a funny story?
Oh, I would
Great
love to.
Story.
I love
Chris. You've seen Chris Osgood's helmet, right? He wore a player helmet with a cage, basically. Right?
Yeah, he was the last goaltender in the NHL to do that until they banned that. They banned it.
So Chris Osgood played one game with a goaltender's helmet.
Really?
And I think he let in 7 goals and got pulled. And my dad is decently good friends with Chris Osgood. My dad was at his wedding, so close enough friends, right? It's not like Chris Osgood needed to invite a bunch of people for them to bring gifts and buy stuff off the registry, right? He invited people he actually wanted to be there. So, like I said, ring the siren, like my dad knows a guy kind of thing.
My dad knows a guy.
But the bar my dad used to work at in downtown Detroit, the Post, a lot of Red Wings used to go to that bar after games. And after that game, Ozzy came into the bar with the helmet, slammed it down, and said, "Hey, Bobby, you want this? Because I ain't ever fucking wearing it again." My dad didn't take it because I don't think he could actually give it away. But I think Osgood took it home. And it's like the only time he's ever worn a helmet like that, and he had never wore it again because of he
That's
had that
funny.
one bad game. He went, nope, I'm good.
I'm
Can't
good.
see
That's
shit
funny.
out of this thing. Anyway, but
it's good.
Brett, I talk about now I want to look for, like going around, looking back in the past, and these things are fun every now and then. But I don't really want to do that anymore. I want to see these teams win new cups and new championships.
So
and like this coming out on Sunday, and then that night, the same night, the Colorado Avalanche win their first cup since 2001. And it's kind of interesting that the biggest story in Detroit sports today, other than being hype about the Pistons, was that Detroit Unrivaled documentary. Meanwhile, if you're in Colorado, your biggest story is that your team just won the championship and has
you just won the Stanley Cup.
And I get it. The Wings are rebuilding. I'm not mad. I'm not mad at anyone that is enjoying it, right? It's just I'm glad and excited we're getting to a point where I don't think we will have to celebrate past achievements anymore and have that be what we're talking about on a weekly basis. It's going to start being, hey, we're winning. We're in the playoffs. We're winning playoff series. We're going to championship games. And I really think great series by both teams. They've definitely one of the more compelling NHL finals in the last couple years.
What's
it felt like an even match.
What's interesting is, and forgive me, okay? So a lot of people like to rip on the ESPN broadcast, okay? And there's one change that I would have made to it. Do you know what that is?
What's that?
Change. Put another broadcaster in the booth.
Yeah, because they had
Ray Ferraro between the benches, and they had the one guy up in the booth.
Yeah, they only had the two.
And so,
but do you think they only put those two? 'Cause it's like the third option is actually, it's like a negative WAR player. It's like the third option is only detracting and not adding, so we might as well roll with two.
So, it's one of those
do you
things
think ESPN
because
is that bad.
Well, so the interesting thing is, and I don't want to get into a whole thing about broadcast strategy or whatever or production, but the reason that they likely did that is because first of all, Ray Ferraro provides pretty good insight from between the benches. He is one of the better sports analysts, especially on a national level.
And he's also the same voice that does.
He's in the NHL game, the video game,
which is very interesting. That the main granted, it's different in hockey than it is in football, because football has 3 or 4 national broadcast crews, because they have your NBC crew, you have a Fox crew for their big game, you have your ESPN Monday night game, and NBC Sunday night game,
everyone
right? So,
has a national lead broadcaster.
There's 4 sets of broadcasters that could call a Super Bowl, right? Because they rotate through whoever gets the Super Bowl rights on a given year. But the fact that none of the 4 guys in those, none of the 4 commentators on those teams are in at Madden. They get what's his name? Charles Harris, I think. And he's a Fox color commentator, but he's just on the whatever game that week.
Well,
right?
the MLB, the new MLB guys are on what do they call it? They're on ESPN Radio. They're not even TV broadcasters. They're fine.
Right. So the fact that the NHL, and maybe it's just kind of a limited there's not a big national pool of broadcasters, but the fact that the NHL voice is also the voice in the game is also the one calling the Stanley Cup final, I think is actually kind of nice. Well, but that's kind of a
I think
note.
that just goes more to his credit.
Ferraro is very good. Yeah, exactly.
But but it's interesting because hockey is such a fast paced game. You know, you know what I would like to see? I would like to see Gary Thorne broadcast NHL games again.
I miss Gary Thorne. He was in the Unrivaled doc.
Oh, I
And
know
they,
he was.
oh my God, I miss him.
And well, because he was like the real voice of like sports. Like he was good. And
He was really good.
like I heard his voice a couple of times. Well, his most recent employment is with the Baltimore Orioles doing their play-by-play. And the Orioles have a very good crew, by the way. But so Gary Thorne was doing a Mets game, I think, last year at one point. Like he was filling in for Gary Cohen, who, by the way, Gary Cohen is the best MLB broadcaster in the league right now. And he's just great. But Gary Thorne taking his place was like nothing to be different. So, and again, I don't want to go into a whole broadcasting thing. We will be talking about that later regarding the Tigers. Little something I have planned for you, Griff, to discuss. But
so the finals were very compelling. It was a 6-game series. Tampa just felt like they got outplayed and ran out of gas.
They were
towards
gassed
the end.
in a couple games.
Last night they had 2 shots in the third period. I mean, you're just you're never going to win that way. It's just not going to happen.
No, they were gassed.
I don't want to hear anything
a lot of
about the refs because honestly, Hedman should have been out of the. Maroon should have been out of the game after Colorado scored their second and what would end up being the game-winning goal. Fucking Pat Maroon takes his stick and slashes, swung hard as shit down at the back of a Colorado player. I'm forgetting which one. And it's a good thing the Colorado player put his stick behind him because Maroon's stick broke over his stick. Otherwise, it was going to go right into the back of his ankles. And that in the regular season, that is probably a 5-minute major in a game for Maroon. He's probably out of the game. And it wasn't even called a penalty. So, I don't want to hear, Tampa fans, they were bitching about that icing call at the last second, which, your team couldn't get in the offensive zone anyway, and you had 30 seconds left, so it doesn't matter.
And that was my thing. I was going to text you about that. What did you think about that 2 minute, too many men on the ice? But, I didn't care. You know what I mean?
Oh, the one in the Colorado game?
The one at home that sent him to, it was... what was it? It was the too many men in the ice overtime game. The one it was game 4 in overtime, game 4, where
Nazem Kadri came off the bench and McKinnon was supposed to be off. And it was
I was you should have lost that game anyway. The only reason
they were playing awful.
Vasilevsky was the only reason that overtime went longer than 90 seconds.
Don't get me wrong, it was the wrong call because Kadri was coming off for McKinnon, and when he came off the bench to make the play, if Kadri hadn't been the guy making the play and it was just 2 guys making a change, it's not a big deal. But Kadri was coming off the bench, and the guy he was coming off the bench for was not on the bench and was still on the ice. That's the definition of too many men, especially when Kadri plays the puck. People were trying to do this gotcha of, Tampa technically had 7 men on the ice. It's 2 of them were coming off the bench, standing in front of the bench. 2 of them were stepping onto the bench in front of their bench. All 4 of them away from the play.
Right.
Do you realize that there are going to be 7 people on the ice at one point?
Well, they have.
That's allowed as long as you don't.
I think they have 5 seconds with the intention to change, or not 5 seconds.
And you don't affect the play of the puck.
Right.
As long,
it's 5 feet, and you're not
coming onto the ice, and the person you're coming off for, you can't make a play on the puck until they're off, or they're basically a foot off the ice kind of deal.
Well, people were pissed.
Those guys were literally on it was the Tampa bench, the Avalanche bench, and then the net they were trying to score on. So those guys making the change were nowhere near the play. That's why that one didn't matter. But Kadri took the puck and scored the game-winning goal
Yeah, and that was like a
while
big
the
deal.
guy he was making the change for was not off the ice yet. He didn't get off the ice until Kadri was in the offensive zone.
Well, and the funny
So
thing
that
about
was
that
a
though
bad
too is
call,
that
but I
if
don't.
that
I
play
still
would have
think
went
Colorado
differently,
wins that game.
if that play did go differently and Colorado doesn't win, first of all, terrible, right? Like that's awful. Okay, but now the series is 2-2, and I think I think that Colorado still wins, but it goes to Game 7, which is an interesting dynamic. Like that changes the whole thing, right? Like if Tampa Bay did win that game and they got lucky on a shot, like that changes the whole complexity of the whole game. But I don't know. It's what was that? Wasn't in Game 6? Wasn't there the one play where the dude was limping off the ice?
Oh, so it was late in the game, and he blocked a shot with his skate, and
Right.
it hit his skate.
Oh
and
yeah, it hit his skate, and the skate fell off.
The blade came off, so he had to he couldn't.
And
you
people wanted to get him for too many men on the ice there, and I'm like, the dude's like basically critically injured.
Yeah, he obviously he's not actually injured, but it's kind of one of those things in hockey where it's like tough shit. The rules still apply, but I agree. Do you want to be the refs to be like, oh, the game was decided because a guy lost his skate?
Right. Well, exactly.
No ref is going to make that call.
So I would just let him play it out.
I do think it's ridiculous that.
I mean, if it's a Stanley Cup, yeah, because then that dude goes. That's a penalty.
Yeah, I do.
You know what I mean? You can't give a penalty in a game-winning decision for a too many men on the ice thing on a technicality.
NHL refs, for whatever reason, third period of any playoff game, the whistles just go away.
Just go away, yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way, but it is, unfortunately.
You know what's funny? So when I was watching Unrivaled, I only tuned into Game 6 of the finals on during the second period with 7 or 10 minutes to go, and I had just gotten done watching Unrivaled, and at the time there was this boarding penalty that was one of the first plays I saw in the second period of that game.
On Darren Helm, Detroit legend.
So there was
pissed about it.
There was a boarding penalty. The dude basically checks him into the wall aggressively.
Oh, it was a textbook definition boarding call.
And the funny thing is I had just gotten done watching the what do you call it? The Unrivaled doc. I just gotten done watching that, and there's the fighting and the MMA and all this shit, right? And I saw that play in real time, and I'm like, that's not boarding. That's the first thing I thought of. I was like, there's no way that's boarding. I saw the replay, and it obviously was, but it's just hilarious how much my biases had changed just from watching some older style of play.
Right.
You know what I mean? Nowadays, you see some hits, and you're like, fuck, that's terrible.
Don't get me wrong, it's the right way now because you don't want players getting injured.
Hockey's
fun and the
and part of me is torn.
I don't need to see a guy lose. I don't want to see another McCarty hit, and that's exactly how it happened. Was because of a boarding call.
And part of me is torn too because I know that hockey is just as disruptive as football when it comes to players getting hurt and their health. And things like that. I understand, it's basically just as bad, but at the same time, it's kind of fun to watch, So
yeah.
Where does
it's human motor derby,
yeah.
You just it's human
well, it's much more fun to watch a tough hit in hockey rather than a tough hit in football. If someone, if someone launches themselves at someone that just looks bad. That's not cool, Whereas in hockey, I'm like, holy shit.
Yep.
Dude, but anyway, Griff, you want to congratulate Tampa real quick, or are we moving on? Is that good for you?
Congrats to them. Yeah, best team in the salary cap era, definitely. You're welcome for Steve Yzerman.
Almost built it. Yzerman almost built a dynasty.
They're good at you got to remember, obviously he hasn't been there as long, but the core is Steve Yzerman's guys. It's Vasilevsky. It's
Vasilevsky was like one of the first guys he drafted. I think it was the first.
yeah, and it was with the Detroit pick.
Yeah,
he traded with Detroit, and they got yep. So
that's funny.
But no, like there a lot of good players on that team are thanks to him, and it makes me hopeful for Detroit's future. I think I've said this before. Detroit, like local radio personalities in Detroit, like Valenti here, is like, I want to see the Wings do big things this offseason and go and sign a big free agent to make another step forward. And I'm like, this isn't football or basketball, guys. Like,
yeah,
I get it. The impatience is there. But the way I view it, this rebuild did not start until 2019 because that's when Stevie started it.
Yeah,
Any pick from the Holland era that works out is just a bonus. But I can't hold that.
I mean, even Larkin, like I'm not anticipating Larkin to stay.
Right. That would be like holding Okuda against Brad Holmes if Okuda ends up becoming the full bust some people, like myself included, think he will be. He didn't make the pick, right? So, like, if we can get Zadino or Rasmussen or Veleno to be good and be valuable players that can be contributors on this team, that's all gravy, but I'm not going to hold that against him.
I mean, one of my favorite things about Yzerman, I think, is, and we talked about this actually when we were interviewing Nate from he was with the Octopus Thrower, right now he's with the Hockey Writers, I believe.
Yep.
And I remember we were talking about this, and I really started to appreciate it, the fact that Yzerman doesn't like give a shit about loyalty, in the sense of like, he's like, you're not going to be loyal to one player just because, you know, like I was a fan of Mantha, but Yzerman said, look, like this is not like for the benefit of this team. And he fucking got rid of him, you know? And I mean, Mantha wasn't, you know, he wasn't playing out, right? But like, just because you like a guy does not mean he's got to stay on the team, you know? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and like Mantha, and he did the same thing with Athanasiou, right?
Right.
Like people almost forget he was on the team.
Right.
But like Mantha was a great example because they gave him a big a contract extension, and then he still wasn't working out, and he traded him. And so not only did they get Vrana, who is way better on this team anyway, is way better, but they also got a first-round pick, and that first-round pick was turned into the draft for Sebastian Cossa, the goaltender.
Right. Yeah.
And if Yzerman can do 80% as well as Vasilevsky, it's a good pick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Cossa could be that dude. You also got Nedeljkovic in my mind, a swindle of a trade.
I mean, the Red Wings got lucky just because, like, I mean, he had ended his contract with the Hurricanes, and the Hurricanes couldn't sign him again. But he was a restricted free agent, so he couldn't. It's not like he could just sign with any team. So the Hurricanes instead traded him to the Red Wings, get whatever they want. It's kind of a win-win situation if you think about it. I think that like a lot of people viewed it as though like Carolina got like fleeced or something like that. I think that both teams benefited,
especially because Carolina's issue is their goaltending really failed them in the playoffs.
That's true.
But they just needed a better goaltending in general.
And I mean, it's kind of a shitty situation for them because again, like if you can't sign a guy, that's something you have to adapt to and you have to figure out. That's not something that you can just fix with like the push of a button, sort of thing. Yeah. So,
but
I mean, I don't know.
See, the thing with like the Wings is like realistically, like when do they win a cup? And we'll probably talk more about prospects next week. Because we're going to talk.
I mean, they still got a draft coming up, right?
Yeah, they got a draft. They're picking number 8. Probably going to get a center because they really need centers. They have a lot of wingers and defensemen in the prospect pool. Not a lot of centers, but like this season, they're probably going to have. So obviously, you're going to probably work out. You're going to work out a deal with Larkin to come back. You're either going to sign Bertuzzi long term, or you're going to trade him for assets in the draft. One or the other. And then obviously, yeah, you have Larkin, you have Raymond, you have Vrana, you have Cider, and you have Ned. Those are kind of like those are your big guys, and then obviously you have some nice role pieces like Suter, Rasmussen, Zadina. Rasmussen and Zadina are the two guys I'm probably gonna be most interested to see this upcoming season under a new coach. I think Blashill was holding those two's development back. I want to see how they do.
I also, you know who else I'm excited for, real quick, and I know you're
Yeah.
probably gonna get into this, but I think the main thing I'm excited to see is how many, if not one or two, of the
How
Red
many
Wings
rookies?
prospects that they've signed just now make the team,
Yep,
and how many
that was
play.
so I think it's going to be at least 2 and at most 3.
Okay.
So I think we're going to see. I think Jonathan Berggren, who's been with the Grand Rapids Griffins for a little while now, I think he'll be up this season. I think he'll make like the full roster, right? I think Albert Johansson, who is a defenseman who is also playing over in the SHL, I think he will make the team. And the if for me is Simone Edvinsson. He would be the last rookie to make the full roster. And he has every, like, for him, it's like 50-50. And when I say it just depends on how he does in camp and preseason. He has all the ability in the world to make the team. It's just going to be a matter of, how well he does. The guy who won't, because he's just not ready for the NHL, is Elmer Soderblom, which we're all very excited to eventually see Elmer Soderblom, but he needs some time in Grand Rapids. He needs to round out his game a little bit more, round out his offensive play, his stick handling, things like that. He has some things to work on. I would say he's got like a 1% chance of making the roster opening day. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like,
Right.
he is young still. Like, he's got time. So those are 3 guys that will come in, 2 of them defensemen, and immediately now your defensive core is Mo Seider and the other guys to Mo Seider, Albert Johansson, and Simone Edvinsson. And I'm trying to remember when Albert Johansson, when he got drafted. I don't remember if he was an Yzerman pick. He was picked in round 2 of 2019, the same year Seider was drafted. Right? Let me just double check this. NHL 2019 draft. 2019 entry draft. Let's see. Yep, Moritz Seider was 6th. But he was pick 60. Yep, pick 60. Albert Johansson. So again, another Yzerman pick, which I think is more reason he'll be up. And then obviously Jonathan Berggren, who was not an Yzerman pick, but he has been in the Red Wings like farm system for a little while. And has been playing very well in Grand Rapids. Or played very well in Grand Rapids this last year. I'm trying to pull his stats up right now. 70 games, 21 goals, 43 assists for 64 points. That's almost a point a game. That's a pretty damn good line. And like I said, he was, I believe, drafted. I think he was a Holland pick. He was picked in 2018 in the second round, 33rd overall. So he was picked. I believe that was the same draft as. Is that the Zadina draft? Yeah. So he was drafted the same year as Zadina, and also the same year as Joe Veleno. And they also have Jared McIsaac from that as well. So there is a lot of like Red Wing prospects from. Like I said, I think like we're gonna see Zadina and Veleno get time to prove their worth this year. Zadina, especially under a new coach. We're going to see some of Yzerman's picks. Probably, like I said, I think 2 more rookies, maybe 3. There is a chance for 4. I kind of forgot about Jared McIsaac. He could make the team just because, like, who else do we have on defense? Like, do we really want to put Jordan Osterley out there every night? Like,
Yeah.
some of these guys are gonna, taxi back and forth between the main squad and the Griffins, and that's fine. It's just gonna be a matter of, how well they develop and how well they adjust to the NHL. But there's gonna be a lot of the rookies. Now, the big thing is, I do want the Wings to potentially go out and sign 1 or 2 good free agents, centers preferably, because Lord, do they need centers. I don't want them to take away I want them to go and like sign 2 kind of expensive free agents to maybe 2-3 year deals. Because one, they need to get over the cap. They have any extension they give to Larkin and Bertuzzi will not kick in the 2022 season that's going to start in September. It would be the year after. So, and between Seider, Raymond, I think Ned still is on an ELC, Edvinsson, Bergeron, and Johansson. That's 7 players on ELC contracts, which are like rookie contracts, which are very low on the salary cap. So they need to.
Not even like
the
$1 million a piece.
The NHL has a salary floor, so the Wings will need to spend some money to get above that. I'd like to go out and see them get someone.
It's hard to believe that the Red Wings have met the salary floor.
Yeah. Well, again, and that part of that is they give guys 1-year deals, prove it deals kind of thing.
Right.
I would like to see them sign someone like Andrew Kopp from the Rangers or something like that. A couple of good veterans, leaders. You need adults in the room. And
adults in the room. All. Yeah.
I mean, they're all kids, man.
Yeah.
They're all under 28, which is great. You want youth.
Or Raymond is like 21.
Yeah, Seider is, I think, just turned 21.
Yeah,
or just
something like 20. That.
So, they're young. And that's a good thing. Don't get me wrong. It's a great issue to have because when in 3 years,
you might end up with an issue with a couple guys who end up like Makar. I mean, 23, and he's already got a shit ton of. He's got the Conn Smythe. He's got,
he's won everything. He won the Calder. He won the Norris. He won the Conn Smythe. And
right, and he's 23 fucking years old.
Yeah, and that's what Seider absolutely has the potential to be.
Absolutely.
So my timeline for the Wings is like this upcoming year. I just want to see more rookies from the Yzerman drafts play.
Okay, but when do you think that they'll win a Stanley Cup? Like, I don't want to know when they're going to contend. I want to know when they will win a Stanley Cup.
Can I give it will be before this year, or do you want an exact year?
I need an exact year, Griff. I need an exact year.
My general feeling is
What's
they
your
will
guess?
have one before the clock strikes midnight into 2030.
Okay.
That's the absolute latest.
Yeah.
So my timeline, I feel like they're not making the playoffs this year, but they'll be in the graphic and they'll be close. Like they'll be not like a point out, but like only like 5 points out of a playoff spot. I think they make the playoffs in 23-24, make it further in 25 or 24-25. I'm going to say they will win the Stanley Cup on this date in 2027.
Okay.
5 years from now.
Mine is a year longer. Mine is 2027. 2028. Sorry, 2028.
Which is fair.
Which is the 27-28 season.
Too.
But yeah.
Hockey's a little hard to predict.
Well, it is.
But,
I mean,
and it's hockey is probably the longest rebuild. Like baseball and hockey are up there because they have the most positions to fill, and players, unlike football, are not ready right out of college.
No. I mean, you can't. Basically, like football's like plug and play. Like you draft the guy that's good for your system, and you put him in day one.
First round picks are expected to play day one.
Right. Like Penei Sewell did a good job.
You're not a developmental pick at
pick one. And
at
whereas
pick 1.
like
Maybe pick 7 is like, you're either going to be good enough to be a backup on the team, or we're going to cut you.
I mean, it also
right?
depends on the position too, right? You know, like I like a quarterback you take in the first round, like you want them to play
if you're a
most of the time.
7th round kicker, you could probably be the starting kicker. They just want, they weren't going to take you with a high overall pick.
Right. Griff, so fielding out the rest of the Detroit teams. So we got Pistons. Okay. My guess is
just
the
had the
Pistons,
best draft of the entire NBA.
2026. 2026, they'll win a championship.
I don't hate that.
Swear to God, 2026.
I think it could. No, actually, I'll tell you this. I'm gonna say 2025. So here's the reason. You will know if Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey are stars. So you'll find out if Cade Cunningham is that guy this year.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Right, because now he has the pieces.
Now he has the pieces around him, and they're still rookies, but if he's that guy, he can work with high raw talent, maybe still need to work on the fundamentals, rookies a little bit, right? So you'll know this year. And if he's that guy, then everyone else, like Ivy and all that, you will know by the end of their sophomore seasons. So Duren will be, who they also drafted. Jalen Duren, you'll find out, is he going to be a starting center that can play 30 minutes a night? You'll know that by 2000, after not the 2023-2024 season. And if he is, and Ivy, same deal, that'll be the end of his second season in 2 years from now in 2024. You'll know. And if all of that's true, and you can sign a free agent, right? Because you'd have a couple more years of free agency. The Pistons have some cap space to work with, and we'll see who they do the free agent signings. But I have doubted Troy Weaver several times through this process, and every time he has taken dog manure and said, "Here, you're going to eat this now." Yeah, and I'm going to say, but Troy, I don't want to eat that. You're going to eat this now because I'm going to make you eat your words, because he has continually proven me wrong. And, I first of all, glad I am, because I thought the Jeremy Grant trade, I thought he didn't do a great job with all that. And then he did what he did on draft night. And I'm like, never mind. He had a plan. I should have trusted in Troy. And he now, with how he has ran the last 3 or 4 drafts, with clearing guys out from the old team, stripping it down to the studs for the rebuild, tanking with efficiency. He drafted Cade, no brainer. But then what he did this year with Ivy and Duren, he is now it's trust in the Iser plan. I now have to trust in Troy Weaver. He has earned the benefit of the doubt. So when I see something that is puzzling, I am now not going to go, what the fuck are you doing, man? I'm going to go, he's got a plan. Because I did that with Steve Yzerman the night they drafted Mo Sider. I was a little bit confused, but I said, Steve Yzerman's got a plan. And look where we are now. I have his jersey because he won the call. So,
yeah, right.
No, Troy Weaver has absolutely earned that benefit of the doubt. And like I said, if he can, that's why I'm not worried about the free agency signings, because if he does as well as he did in the free agency as he does in the draft, this team's going to be legit. Oh, and I didn't even mention Sadiq Bey or Killian Hayes, who can also be starting level players. The Pistons could absolutely, if things go right for them, be competing for a title in 2025.
Yeah, I think that
and part of that
for
is
some reason I'm more hesitant.
And that's fair. Part of it, the reason I think it can be so quick is if you are a first round pick, you're good, right? You play in the NBA right away, and the NBA doesn't have as big of a roster to fill.
No, and that's why I thought that I was going quick, because, and I guess, because next year will be 2023, so yeah, so I guess if you give them 3 years, that's fair.
There's this off season, half an off season.
Mm-hmm.
Can the Pistons be ready to win a championship in what would be this half of an off season, the off season after that, which would put us in 2023, and then the off season after that? So basically 2.5 off seasons. Do I think they can be ready to win a title? Yeah, I do.
Right.
And you know what? I got to give credit to where it's due. Dwayne Casey's done a great job navigating this rebuild as well. I think he's great for young players. He was perfect in his execution of tanking because he would play the guys that were not good but would play hard. So it ensured them getting the better draft lottery odds. It was a masterclass. It was perfect. Like the Pistons have done this perfectly, and I have
Perfectly,
to give
yeah.
them a
Yeah.
lot of credit. Like I still put Steve Yzerman above Weaver because it's Yzerman. I've just seen what the Tampa Bay Lightning have done and
Right.
all of the things he's done for the Wings so far. But Weaver, it's like this, right? And
So one more. So here's another one. Here's the big one. Okay. Lions. When did the Lions win a Super Bowl?
so this one's a lot harder because the NFL is so weird. It's
Yeah.
so up and down.
Hmm.
And like, you know how I was saying
I think
these
the
two are
Lions
here?
could win
Do you know
without a
why
good
these
team.
two are here? Do you know why Yzerman and Weaver are like neck and neck basically? Because they both have their stars. They have the leaders.
Hmm. The Lions don't
Weaver
really have that yet.
Weaver got Cade. Stevie had Larkin, and he also has Sider and Raymond. Like those are that's your big three.
Brad Holmes has a lot more to prove, right?
He has a lot more to prove. The biggest thing with Holmes, he has done a very good job so far. He has. Like, I love the Jameson Williams trade up aggression. I do. It was bold, and if it works out, it's going to be a potential turning point in the franchise that could help us win a Super Bowl. I love what he has done in his drafts. I mean, Amon St. Brown was a 4th-round pick, and the dude almost had, I think, either did have or almost 1,000 receiving yards in his rookie campaign.
So do you know what I'm gonna
But
say?
the big question with Brad Holmes is what are you gonna do at the quarterback position? Because if he had his quarterback, like if he was in a position to draft, a Trevor Lawrence and that was our QB to work with, and then he was just had to get him the weapons, I would feel extremely confident. Or hell, even if we had a no-name bridge quarterback, if we had a Geno Smith, a guy who they're not going to be beholden to, and he's just the stopgap. Even then, I would have a lot of faith in him because I know he has draft capital. He's going to go get his guy at some point using that draft capital, whether it be moving up in the draft or trading for an established QB. The issue is it's Jared Goff. And Jared Goff is in that no man's land. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like, what happens this year if the Lions go out and win 8 to 9 games? That's a 6-win improvement over the last year. And let's say Jared Goff is the 13th best QB in football. I'm just pulling a number out, right? He's top 15, top 14. And the games they lost weren't really his fault, right? Like maybe the defense gave out or a receiver or a running back was fumbling and it wasn't Goff turning the ball over. If Goff really does like revive his career, like obviously that's the preferred choice, right? Then you use that draft capital and just keep building the team. Like that is the best option. So if that can happen, great. It will really depend on what we see out of him this year. Another year in the Lions system, he has got lots of weapons. You have Jameson Williams, you have TJ Hawkinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Chark, DeAndre Swift. You have a running game, you have a top 5 O-line in football, and you have a great receiving core with depth. There are no excuses for Jared Goff this year. I need to see, like, literally, it needs to be a career year for him. And if it's anything less, I'd move on from him. But will Brad Holmes do that? That's where I'm worried. So, like, if Weaver and Stevie are here, Holmes is, like, here. It's good. Like, on the scale, like, to the floor, it's good. But I need to see what he does with quarterback before anything
Right, because
else.
you have a lot less than...
I give him credit so far. I've been very happy with the job he's done. So I'm giving him credit. He deserves credit for what he's done. But the quarterback is the most important position in football. I need to see how he handles it and what he does with it. We'll see what he and I'm fine with giving uh, Goff another year to show his stuff. I really am, because last year, in fairness to him, the great O line was injured half the time. We never actually saw Ragnow, Sewell, and Decker all on the line in one game. One of them was always injured or out. So I'd like to see what he does with that full stacked O line, and this year with actual receivers instead of Quintez Cephas, right? Like, in all fairness to Goff. So I want to see what he does this year, and if he can, again, I hope he does what Troy Weaver did to me and makes me eat my words, because I would love that. Again, save the draft capital, use it on other shit that other than QB.
What's your year, Griff? What's your year?
So if the rebuild goes as
let's assume
scheduled,
it does. Let's assume it goes great. Let's
Brad
assume
Holmes
it goes how you think it'll go.
The Lions should win a Super Bowl. I'm not going to say this year. So there'd be 2022 and 2023 is this year. 23-24 would be the year after that. I'm going to say the same thing as I said for the 24-25, because by 24-25, you will have one of two things. Your roster will be stacked. It would be Holmes would now have a team that basically everyone on the team would either be his draft picks or his signings at that point, right? Like, other than maybe Frank Ragnow and a couple others, but like the team will be largely either guys he chose to re-sign from the Bob Quinn era, guys he signed in free agency, or guys he drafted. Like, the entire team is he built it. It will also either mean you have had Goff and he was your decision and he was the answer and you went with him, or it means you drafted a rookie in the 2023 draft and he's had 2 years in the league to acclimate. And in his second year, he needs to be ready to win a championship, similar to Joe Burrow. Like, if he is, like, with the quarterback typically, right? Like, they are either have it or they don't. And that second year is typically when you find out. So I'm going to say 2025. If things are on track, it should be that. And because that's kind of how the NFL is built for variety. So you're supposed to be able to launch up and down very easily in terms of being able to rebuild. That's why they don't have a lottery.
I think that here's what I think. I think they're going to.
I mean, you are allowed to say never, technically.
So, no, they did it once. Well, not a Super Bowl. They won an NFL championship. So they were able to do that. And that's, enough for me to satisfy me. So it's hard to say. Okay. I can't. I was so much more confident in saying that they'll win one. Now I'm not. I don't know why. But here's what I will say. They will win a playoff game in 2026.
Playoff game in
That's
26.
as far as I'm going. That's as far as I'm going.
No, Brad.
So
no. Here's the thing.
Okay. I'll give you one better. 2025.
Right now, Brad.
2025.
They need to win a playoff game in the 2023-2024 season. They need to win a playoff game.
What if they make the playoffs and they lose? You think they're going to make the playoffs this year?
Not this year, but the year after.
Will they win a playoff game? I mean, you only get one game.
That's true.
And they don't have Matthew Stafford, who should have risen.
It depends on how. If it's just a close game and you get beat, because let's say they're the 6th seed and they're going against a powerhouse, and they're just
right. You don't know what's going to happen.
I wouldn't be mad at it. They need to at least be in the playoffs, especially with an expanded playoff, right? You need to be in the playoffs by the 2023-2024 season. I'd prefer for them to win one, and they need to win. If that's the case, then they absolutely need to win one in 25. No excuses in 25.
And
the NFL is weird. I don't think the Lions are going to do what the Bengals did, but they absolutely could like come out of nowhere and somehow win a playoff game this year. It's not like inconceivable.
I feel the
If you
same
have
way about the
rookies-
Tigers. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not inconceivable for a bad team to win. Whereas the Stanley Cup
I don't
is
feel that way. The Tigers are built to fail. They're never.
Yeah, but the Braves won a World Series without one of their best players. You know, like, it is possible. It's very possible
that
to
is
win.
true, but the Braves are a competent organization with depth throughout their farm system. The Tigers are not.
Yeah, but if the Tigers were to
farm
fire
system-
Al Avila tomorrow and get a competent GM, they could absolutely win in 2028. Like 2027.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Okay,
like
I thought you were saying
right
this
now,
year.
at the current state of the Detroit Tigers, right now, my pick is 2049.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So like the only like, because here's the thing: even if they fire Avila, I need to see who they hire.
Right.
If it's another yes man to Chris Ilitch, same boat, 2049. You know, it's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
I mean, but here's the thing, though, right? Like, even if you have a yes man
Mm-hmm.
who, like, you don't get the free agent you want. You know, let's say you're a yes man and you wanted Carlos Correa, but Chris won't let you have it, and you can't really do anything about it, right? And so you settle for Javi Baez. Even if you are half as competent, if you were just like 50% more competent, you know, instead of 0% competent that Avila is, even if you're 50, you have draft picks and people in the farm system to trade for current assets. You have more assets. You know, you have positional players that you can be excited about coming up. It's like, but with Al, it's like, oh, we got like 4 guys. We got Riley Green, we got Spencer Torkelson, and we got Tariq Skubal, and maybe Casey Mize if he can recover from Tommy John surgery and not have his, you know, if he can come back from it, which is like, it's a huge unknown, right? That's who we have. If we have a halfway competent GM who is still a yes man, but at least can draft well, like, the Tigers are not in the worst position, especially because of all the years they had top draft position, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's like,
the GM would be the one hiring those coaches in the minors, and we would be better at developing players,
right? And
like, you know,
well, and the
Isak
reason why
Paredes
I don't
doesn't
want to
leave the organization and become an overnight phenom in Tampa Bay somehow. You know what I mean?
So my thing is, and I hate like talking about this anymore at this point, you know, with the Tigers and everything, because it's so like just done, you know? Like,
Yeah.
you know, because I loved making fun of the Lions when they were incompetent because it was just fucking funny, you know? It was hilarious to watch. I say this in the most respectful way possible, but I think the Lions are a pathetic organization who need to change owners or else they're never going to win a Super Bowl. That's why, like, I can only predict their playoff win because I don't know what else the Ford family is going to do to this organization. I can't predict. I still think that Dan Campbell is in way over his head. You know what I mean? That's just my personal opinion. So it's just like one of those things where, like, it's hard for me to say, but like, they're on the right track. That's all I can say about the Lions. With the Tigers, like, they're reminding me of the Lions, which is very, very, very terrifying. But I like the Tigers.
I don't even
know. The problem.
I don't even know if it's like, is it like the Lions? Because at least the Lions had like peaks and valleys. This team is just it's a linear line down. At least the Lions, like, they had 2014.
Okay, explain to me the Lions with Bob Quinn.
Case in point, fair enough. Okay,
this is
you're
the
right.
Lions,
but
Bob Quinn. You know what I mean?
That's part of it. Is Bob Quinn was gone after 4 years, or well, he wasn't, but because he was around for some of the Caldwell era. But like, Patricia was gone after 3 years.
Right.
It's been 7 with Al Avila, and I think that's why.
I mean, you're comparing a coach to a GM, but still.
At least the Lions keep throwing it at people out and keep trying throwing a new candidate at the board. With the Tigers, it's been the definition of insanity of they keep trying this thing with Avila and nothing gets better.
Well, and the funniest thing, well, and a lot of it has to do with, I mean, you've said this before, right? Football is king. Like people are much more critical of their football teams, and I think that a lot of it also has to do with the fact that the NFL gives a shit. I think that, and this is again my total distrust in what's his name, who's the commissioner of the MLB. Fuck,
not Gary Bettman. That's NHL.
No, that's the NHL. I've heard of
Adam Stone is NBA. Roger Goodell is NFL.
Is NFL. Shit. Anyway, just the current state of the MLB pisses me off so much.
It's such a baseball fucking name too. MLB commissioner. Because it used to be Bud Selig. That was right. Manfred.
Right,
God,
Rob Manfred.
We're bad sports fans. I can't believe I couldn't think of that.
Well, so my issue with Manfred, obviously,
all of
is it? Well, everything. He only gives a shit about money and what benefits him. But he doesn't care about like growing the game, right? He's only interested in like the rich fans who have money, things like that. Like he's not interested in the kids. I guess my point is that Manfred allows this to exist. Like he's the one who is perpetuating this problem. Like the Pirates haven't been good in years. The Orioles haven't been good in years. Like there's a reason for that. Like and I mean specifically when it comes to the Diamondbacks and the Pirates. Like the Orioles at least won like a couple. They were playoff contention for a while in a good AL East division. You got the Mariners who were good in the mid 2000s, partly because of Ichiro Suzuki, who was one of the biggest names in baseball. You have teams with history, whatever. But then you look at teams like the Pirates and the Diamondbacks and the Athletics, who just sold the entire goddamn team just to make a buck. Just to prove that they could move their team to Las Vegas or whatever.
Yeah.
Like they just sold the whole thing. And it's just like, it's more profitable right now for teams not to give a shit. Whereas in the NFL, there's more accountability. Like Roger Goodell cares if his teams aren't good. I mean, you're going to have like a Washington football team every now and then. The Lions obviously aren't that great, but at least you're going to keep throwing darts at the board. There's pressure to fire executives that are not performing.
Yeah, especially like, even with the revenue sharing, you're right. Like it's
like it's more profitable really, in baseball to suck.
Like the worst part is like during this lockout, right? And granted, the job of the commissioner, they are on the owner side, right? The commissioner does not argue for the players union because that's the players union's job, right?
Right.
But like, if I'm the commissioner of the league and I want baseball as an MLB as an organization, I'm talking to the owners. I'm telling them, guys, like Dodgers, Mets, you guys are fine. I get it. You have all the money and you want to win. Great. But like, I'm looking at the Tigers and I'm looking at the Guardians. I'm looking at the Athletics, the Pirates. I saw an insane graphic and I did not realize the Pittsburgh Pirates are a pitching factory. Did you know that? Do you realize,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, Shane Baz was drafted by the Pirates and they sold him to Tampa Bay.
Literally all-star level pitchers. How many all-star pitchers the Pirates have produced. Here's the Pirates pitchers who they've traded away. Charlie Morton in 2015.
Yeah.
Garrett Cole in 2018. Tyler Glasnow in 2018.
Yeah.
Shane Baz.
Yep.
Joe Musgrove in 2021, current Padres pitcher. Jamison Talion, also a Yankee. Clay Holmes, also a Yankee. So apparently, they just really like loading up the Yankees and Rays with good pitching. Because holy shit. Like, these are guys who are starting level pitchers. And the only reason they don't have them is... Yeah, by the way... and the combined record of these pitchers win-loss record of all those 6 pitchers I just listed. Sorry, 7 pitchers. 193 and 80.
Yeah.
and with a 3.15 ERA.
You know what's funny though is so the Pirates are sort of, to me, as far as what I've observed, sort of to me what the Cleveland Guardians are, in the sense that like once their players like they don't re-sign their own players like ever, right? Like
No, because they don't.
like
They won't want to pay them.
Well,
They
exactly.
literally
I mean,
just
you
don't
saw
wanna
with
pay 'em.
Francisco Lindor, they just traded Lindor for another shortstop who they can not pay for the next 6 years. I mean, that's all they do, and you're seeing more teams do that, and so like arbitration still exists. I kind of hate that. I think that the players should have opted not to play at all, to be honest, because I still think that they didn't get what they really deserve,
Right.
but whatever. I mean, I think that arbitration is just bad for baseball, if I'm going to be honest.
I mean, it is, but that's getting in. Like we did an episode.
I'm not going to get into the weeds with that.
Year and a half, almost a year ago now, where we talked about all of the issues that
all of
baseball
the issues.
has.
Yeah, you want to watch that? Go watch like episode 20.
It was watched, Brad. We didn't have video recording back then.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, you're right. So Griff.
Yeah.
So, do you want to know when I think that the Tigers will win a World Series?
2049. We already talked.
Yeah, but sort of. So the Braves won their World Series when they won was a result of tanking. So
Yeah.
I think that they will win a World Series in 2034. That's not very soon, but it's not that long. So we only got 15 more years, guys. No, we'll already have won a World Series.
Like here's the thing.
I don't even care about a World Series. I just want to see exciting baseball.
The Tigers would be like Chris Ilitch could get some goodwill very quickly. All he's got to do, Bradford. It's very like it's so easy, but like it really is. As the owner, it's easy. Fire the guy that everyone's pissed off at.
Yeah.
Like it's
you got a guy that doesn't know his foot from his hand.
If you believe in the guy and you're just thinking everyone's overreacting, much like I did with Troy Weaver, then like right, you can tell the fans to fuck off, trust the process. It's been 7 years. If you still see something in Alavila, you need to get your head checked. You know this guy can't be the solution when you see what this baseball team is. When your team is getting booed in its own stadium, it's unacceptable. So
it's rough. It's rough. It is so bad. It is unmeasurably bad. I have never seen the 2003 Detroit Tigers were not this bad.
Yeah. Like, do you realize Chris Ilitch, because Detroit sports fans are insanely forgiving. Like, people think Detroit, they're hard in Detroit. I'm like, go to New York. Okay. Listen to New York sports radio for a day and realize that Mike Valeni isn't that bad. Okay.
It takes a lot of
so again,
sucking for you to get booed.
Do you realize how many people would be like, oh, we forgive you, Chris, if they just fired Avila? They're like, okay, Chris is doing the right thing. Let's see. Okay, I got some faith again.
They'd be like, fucking finally, and they'd have hope in the team again. They'd think it's a new renaissance,
Yep.
Do you want to rank Detroit GMs real quick? Because I saw this thread on Twitter and I slightly disagreed. It was an overreaction, but I am going to rank the Detroit GMs. Okay.
Yeah, let me hear it. Because I think you and I are in lockstep on this.
So we are. There was one that said that had Troy Weaver, Steve Yzerman. As one, right? So Troy Weaver for the Pistons, Steve Yzerman for the Red Wings, Brad Holmes for the Lions, and number 4 was bum on his ass, whatever. I think that they were mostly trying to emphasize the Avila part, the fact that he just sucks.
Which, that's why I wasn't when the person put that, it was because of two things, right? The Tigers are incredibly bad, and Troy Weaver just had the best draft in the NBA. Right? So it was like they were just being hyperbolic, I think.
Yeah. But I will tell you that Steve Yzerman is and I don't know much about the NBA. I don't know much about the NBA. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Learning some more about it.
Oh, I'm sure. But
just to be more, because now it seems like the Pistons are good. Because I've always been a Pistons fan, but basketball has been the least interesting sport.
Well,
So I'm
yeah,
kind of
because
like,
they
okay,
haven't
the
done anything
Pistons.
since 2004. And how old were
Yeah,
you
and
during
after
that
they got
time?
after they got Cade, I started watching a few Pistons games to watch him play, right? So
Right.
like I've been slowly trying to up my basketball knowledge. Um so yeah, that's just giving some background on that in terms of that. But anyway, you were saying, Brad.
So so Steve Eiserman is the best, and I used to say top five because I didn't want to be hyperbolic. I don't think this is hyperbole anymore. He is the top number one GM in the NHL.
Yeah, no, I think that's
I think that that's like
100%.
hands down. I mean, he is the
Yeah,
one who put
I
together the
mean,
core of the Lightning. Like
I'll say
obviously, right?
this: Sack, Joe. Of course, their rivalry on the ice, but now Joe Sakic and him are both rivaled for
They're like
being
step and
top
step.
five GMs. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, because his team just won a Stanley
That would
Cup.
be pretty sick. Like I love that Iserman's like with the Wings now. But how sick would that be if Iserman was still the GM for the Lightning?
Oh my God, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
Like that would just be
I'm actually
incredible.
watching. I watched a clip of Iserman getting kind of choked up when in his introductory press conference when he went to Tampa in 2010, and it just he like gets choked up because he's like, I left the Red Wings because he never wanted to, and it still breaks my heart to this day
Yeah.
that he left.
So Steve Yzerman, number one. Number two, Troy Weaver. He has officially changed my mind because I think before I had him at three. Wasn't really sure. Again, this is kind of my lack of NBA knowledge, but he hadn't really proved anything. He had no reason to hate him, and Brad Holmes seems like a nice enough guy. But now I got, because it used to be like Yzerman up here, Holmes up here, or Holmes down here, and then like Weaver here. Now I think that Weaver's like hopped up to like Yzerman, like right up here, right? So it's like number one, number two, Holmes, and then Avila is in the basement. So, like,
Yeah.
I think that Steven
No, I agree with you.
across the
'Cause, like,
road on his
I think
Xbox
people
playing MLB The
don't
Show
realize
is better.
Yeah, I think people don't realize how like hockey rebuilds take a long time, longer than the NBA. And Yzerman also has the precedent of he's done this before and built a winner. So now it's like, and like I said,
He almost
Weaver
built a
is,
dynasty.
you got to remember, like with GMs, it's what have you done for me lately? Ken Holland helped win the Red Wings Stanley Cups, but when he wasn't doing it anymore, I was like, see you later. Mark
Right.
D'Antonio, Brad, I'm sure as a Michigan fan, thanks for all the great things you brought us, but you're awful now, dude.
I mean, that's
Leave,
kind of the
right?
way it is with hockey coaches, is it not? Like, you have,
Yeah.
especially since
But-
hockey is such a fluid game, like, you
Right.
have the moments where it's,
yeah,
I mean,
and my
you
point with-
have like an up and down, like this, the dude for the Islanders, Barry Trotz was doing,
Yeah,
I mean, he was a great
surprise
coach. He still
firing.
is a good coach. Just because a hockey coach gets fired, I don't think that implies that they're necessarily bad. They just weren't working out in their current situation.
Yeah, but
But
the
yeah, I
thing
mean, they
with,
treat them the same way as GMs.
yeah, but I think like with Steve, it's not only like I point to what he's done in Tampa as like he's gonna do that for Detroit, but I can also point to what he's done in Detroit. Mo Sider just won the Calder. Lucas Raymond came in fourth.
Right.
Like his draft picks are immediately coming in and making a difference, and his trades have been magnificent so far. He traded for Nedeljkovic. He traded for Jacob Vrana and a first round pick by getting rid of Mantha. Like those are good trades, and that's how he built the Tampa team. It was through the draft and through trades. He didn't have a lot of big free agent signings. It was homegrown players.
And that's exactly
why
the mistake that the
everything he's
Tigers are
doing here-
making.
Yeah, that's why he's still number one. It's not, oh, he did this in Tampa and we're still kind of TBD in Detroit. It's he did all that in Tampa. Tampa has had all their success and is still having their success with mostly players he built. Your main all-star players, your main core guys that Yzerman acquired. And again, he is now doing the same thing in Detroit by having a Calder winner, having rookies that have come in and then impressive and have broken franchise records as rookies.
I mean, you saw the same thing with past Detroit teams too. Like the only reason that Detroit was so good for so long, or even like a Stanley Cup contender in 2008 and 2009, is because they had so many good late round picks.
Yeah, Henrik Zetterberg, who
was a 7th round
did
pick.
not make the Hall of Fame, which he will, but this was his first year of eligibility.
Right.
But he was a 7th round pick.
Right. Which is the last round.
He should have won the Calder, and he got snubbed. But guess what? It turned out pretty well for him. Conn Smythe winner, Stanley Cup champion.
Yeah, and he has the third most playoff goals in NHL history as a 7th round pick.
Yeah, so it's a very impressive what they did. I don't even remember what Pavel Datsyuk was, but I don't think he was a first rounder.
No, he was not. No, Datsyuk. No,
I don't even remember. But yeah, I definitely think Yzerman deserves a lot of credit for what he's done. So yeah, listen, 3 of the teams are in a good spot. We just got to accept that baseball the summers aren't going to be fun. But fall, man, me and you are going to be having some fun podcast episodes with this, recapping the different things that happened with our teams. So
Pavel Datsyuk, by the way, just so you know, was a 6th round pick. And not just a 6th round pick, but he was at the end of the 6th round. He was taken 26th in the 6th round, which is 171st overall. He was almost a 7th round pick. And do you see how good he turned out to be?
Yeah, exactly. All right, Brad, before we wrap up, I think you mentioned
I wanted
something
to talk
about the Tigers
about
with their broadcast.
We don't really have time for it, as I suggested to earlier we would. But so the Tigers will be playing a game on Peacock this coming weekend, okay? And you need a subscription for it. Sorry. I mean, it's better than watching Bally Sports Detroit if I'm going to be honest. But so there's no announcers in the game. No announcers. At all.
I heard there's going to be interviews.
Yeah, so they're going to have cameras with the fans.
So are they going to have microphones on there or anything?
I don't fucking know. I mean, they're going to have they're going to have reporting. Like Craig Monroe is going to be in. Like Craig Monroe is going to be one of the broadcasters for NBC.
So I guess my thing is just is it just a lot of dead air? Because
I don't think so.
Watching a game live at the
it's like if you were watching a game and it was just on field reporting.
Okay.
That's the only thing that they have.
I'm definitely very curious, and I haven't heard Peacock's broadcast crews.
They do.
I
didn't hear about it too.
But
it did not make as much headlines as Apple TV did. But they have a Sunday night game.
Anything is better than
Matt Shepard,
Bally Sports Detroit. Listen, I don't even hate Matt Shepard that much. He's actually
it's Gibson. Really, it's
he
Gibson.
Just never. It's Gibson and it's Dan Petrie and it's Jack Morris. They're all just awful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Jack Morris, and I really don't like garbage.
Johnny Kane.
No,
who's the field reporter? I think he's kind of annoying. He's a himbo, dude. It's straight up.
Who else? You know who I hate? I hate John Keating. Who is that guy? John Keating.
Everyone hates, you hate John Keating. Most people seem to like John Keating. And
I don't
think
understand
that's just
it.
because he's been around
his voice
forever.
Is so annoying.
He's been around forever.
I know he has. His voice is straight up so annoying.
I don't hate Keats, but it's so funny the contrast between the Tigers broadcast and then the Red Wings broadcast. The Red Wings broadcast was awarded best local broadcast of throughout the entire NHL, and
the Tigers
Mickey
is
Redmond
bottom 3.
Just got inducted into. I think he's a Michigan Sports Hall of Famer and also a Broadcasting Hall of Famer now.
Probably
because he's just so well revered, and he really is something else. And honestly, Ken Daniels does not like, because Mickey is so fun and people love him because he's, hey, what's up, gang? You know what I mean?
I think
But
people
Ken Daniels
also
is so good. Ken
people
Daniels is
also really love Ken Cal for the radio.
he's also very good. Ken Cal and Ken Daniels both do their jobs perfectly as a hockey play-by-play guy, right? They both succinctly and swiftly convey a lot of information quickly, but in a digestible and sensical way. Like Ken Daniels can say a lot of things and it's like all of it tracks. And he never like stutters. It's like perfect delivery. And Ken Cal does the same thing. And then you have Mickey Redmond, who is like this perfect, like, I forget the tweet that it was in the beginning of the year, but the Red Wings, it was like the Red Wings broadcast crew is perfect because you have a very smart, intelligent, witty play-by-play guy that can convey the information quickly, succinctly, and sensically. And then your color guy is just like your old grandpa yelling at the TV about the play. And it was like perfect because that's exactly what the Red Wings broadcast crew is. And it's awesome because like they really are that. And they are very, very entertaining. And there's nothing better than hearing Mickey Redmond start to giggle when
I
Mo Seider just
feel, you know,
bullies
I
a
feel
guy.
the same way about the Red Wings broadcast that I do about the Mets, which is
100%.
crazy. Like the Mets broadcast is like
apples. That's the comparison, right?
right.
They're like the best at what they do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is like hands down so entertaining to watch. And that was what it should be. It should be entertaining. Like you're not entertaining people to get off my screen. I don't want to hear it.
Well, and that's the thing. Like if you're going to be if you're going to be the baseball guys, you got to be entertaining. You got to be
you got to be like it's got to be like a podcast more than anything else.
Yeah, like you got to be good telling stories, talking about different things. Like Jack Morris just wants to talk about pitching. Like that's all he talks about. So like when the Tigers
I mean when he's not trying to like breathe
cuz he was a pitcher.
Yeah. Right.
So all he's talking about is like, "Oh, well from the pitcher's perspective, this is what the hitter should be looking for." And it's just annoying.
Well, and it's like the dude doesn't talk half the time. Like it's like dead air. It's like how did you not learn that or something?
And the 2-2.
And the 2-2 5 minutes later.
It's up. Oh, and it's gone. The Tigers have walked it off in the bottom of the ninth.
You know what I think it is?
What a shot.
You know what I really think it is? I really think that so when broadcasters, especially baseball, when they're in the broadcast booth, they do scorecards, right? So like they're writing down their little scorecard thing. I think that Matt Shepard just can't talk and write at the same time. I really think that every single time he sounds like he's distracted.
I can't either, but it's also not my job, right?
I mean, yeah. It's like, and a lot of people don't get it, but like baseball is a lot harder to broadcast than hockey is because as long as you know the guys' names on the rink, you're fine, right? But like with baseball, like there's a lot of time to fill. Hockey, there's more happening. Football, there's more happening. Like and in hockey especially, like a lot of the statistics are fed to you, so like you kind of don't really have to do all the work, whereas like in baseball you're kind of like supposed to come up with more info than like usual, and it's hard to keep entertained if only you're talking about the game. So it helps if you're like buddy with the guy you're with, I don't know, but enough about that. Griff, are you ready to go? Are you ready to sign off?
I think so, but that is interesting. I'll be curious to watch that and see how it is, because I don't mind watching games without commentary, especially when it's baseball. So.
I mean, when it comes to the Tigers, I'd rather watch it on mute. I would rather just them mute their mics.
Listen to Dan Dickerson on 97.1.
Yeah, right. Just sync that, instead.
But yeah, Brad, I think I'm ready to go.
I'm ready to go.
Sign us off.
Oh, friend? I would love to. Well, thank you, fam, friends and family, for watching Take This. Obviously, Griff has been with us, and so have I. So bad at this. You can visit us on
everyone.
Twitter.
I'm going to take over. Thanks for listening to Take This. We'll see you next week. We're going to break down the Red Wings draft. I shouldn't have put Brad on the spot like that. We're going to break down the Red Wings draft prospects, see what they might be looking to take in the draft on July 7th. and see who the next member to wear the winged wheel will be. We'll kind of go over some other NHL stuff with that. So until we see everyone next week, take care of yourselves. Be nice to each other. Hope all of your bets hit with all of your boosted odds specials. And don't forget to make your free throws. We'll see you next week. Peace.